I met Alex once I came into the project. They had been shooting for like 5 weeks, and then the first day on the set, I met Alex, and I fell in love with Alex. What a wonderful, interesting, gentle man, and people adored him. And it was one of those sets where there was an energy about it that you knew that it was just a wonderful atmosphere to be around. Crew, everybody. And I used to talk to him a lot. And Benbury and I would drive him crazy, but he didn't have pictures of Kizzy. He had pictures of Kunta Kinte and Chicken George, but there was no picture. So I had to create her out of the imagination that he used in his book. And I mean, the greatest compliment was when it was over, he came to me, he said, "You're exactly how I imagined her to be." So that was really lovely. From the time I read that script, it was like she just became a part of me. I just knew what was right for that character for some reason, you know. And she was strong. She didn't let herself be a victim, even under the circumstances that her life took. And I just wanted to make sure that I got to tell that story of, even when terrible things happen, you can turn it around. You can turn it around. And she was able to turn it around and manipulate for her son, like Chicken George. Mm-hmm. Every time I came home, I was in tears, you know. It used to drive me crazy. And then I realized, now I understood why my grandmother never wanted to talk about when she was young, because she was one of 10 children, and the man who owned the plantation was the father of the children. But he built a school on the property, and they were all educated. They became doctors and lawyers and dentists and stuff like that. But I could never get her to talk about, what would you like with a kid and stuff like that. And then I understood why she didn't want to talk about a lot of things.
How would you describe the relationship between Kizzy and her father?
Oh, very strong. I mean, she got all her values from him, because he kept the African tradition and made sure that she kept that. You've got to tell the story, which applies, I think, today to anybody. If the older generation doesn't speak to their kids or their grandchildren about their experiences, they need to know all that. They need to know that history. Keeping secrets doesn't work, and helps tell who you are when you tell these stories. And so that's what the great relationship between Kizzy and Kunta Kinte was, because he was constantly telling her what her background was, what happened, his story, and how you got to keep it with your generation, whereas her mother was kind of like, oh, we don't want to hear that African stuff, but it was important for him. So they had a bond that was just very, very special, that she lost when he died.
Well, tell us a little bit about that scene when Kizzy visits his grave.
Well, I mean, from, as I said, the relationship between those two and him being lost, he was kind of like her anchor, somebody that she could talk to. And now he wasn't there anymore. Now it was all up to her to create that world that he had been trying to tell her about. And so I think that's a big turning point for her. It's like, okay, I have to carry this on now.
So you mentioned the scene in which Kizzy gets sold and is taken away in the wagon. Can you tell us a little bit about filming that? How many takes did you have to do?
We only did 2, luckily. Because next day I was so bruised. I had so many bruises on me, because I just can't imagine having children and somebody decides, well, as a punishment, we're taking your children away. And if you have to think back then, once you were away, you were away. You went way off to another plantation someplace. And so you never see these. There was no telephone, you're not supposed to be able to write, so you can't write a letter. And so it was just, I almost fainted when they said cut, because I was just, she's a very big part of me, because what an opportunity. And it made history. And it just, wherever I went in the world, they knew Kizzy and they knew Roots. And I think about 7 years ago, we went to London, and I was getting an award from these young Africans who were involved in television, stuff like that, and they wanted to give me an award. And to hear them, how it felt for them being in London and seeing their story being told, they were just so honored. And I was so honored because, you know, you don't realize how many people you touch when you do work, and when you have people come up to you and say, you know, that changed my life. I also met a lot of Kizzys, because a lot of women name their children Kizzy. So that was great. But Kizzy always be part of me, because when I'm long gone, there'll always be the original Roots.